They took the children away. They took the children away. Snatched from their mother's breast, said this is for the best. Took them away. The welfare man, policeman said you got to understand. We'll give to them what you can't give. Teach them how to really live. Teach them how to live, they say. Humiliated them instead. Taught them that and taught them this. And then they taught them prejudice. They took the children away. They took the children away. Snatched from their mother's breast, said it was for the best. Took them away. One dark day in Framingham, came and didn't give a damn. My mother cried, go get your dad. He come running, fighting mad. Mother's tears were falling down. He come running, fighting his ground. He said, you touch my kids and you fight me. Then they took us from the family. They took the funeral away. They took the children away. Snatched from my mother's breast, said this was for the best. Took them away. Taught us what to do and say. Taught us all the white man ways. Then they split us up again. Gave us gifts to ease the pain. Sent us off to foster homes. As we grew up, we felt alone. 'Cause we were acting white but feeling black. One sweet day, all the children came back. Yeah, the children came back. Oh, the children came back. Back where their hearts grow strong, back to where they all belong. Children came back. Oh, the children came back. Yeah, the children came back. Back where they understand, back to their mother's land. Children came back. Back to their mothers. Back to their father. Back to their sister. Back to their brother. Back to their people. Back to their land. All the children came back. Oh, the children came back. Yeah, the children came back. Oh, the children came back. Yes, I came back. Thank you. So we're here for Sorry Day today, and in language I would say Bangai Narawur. Bangai Narawur means sad day. And there's a lot of sad days in history. And we celebrate or pay homage to these sad days so we can acknowledge and recognise those times of trauma and pain. And it's the way we get through pain and trauma is by sharing our stories, sharing our pain. And it's the one thing that can bring somebody home is that sharing of the pain and trauma with their families. So you can probably understand the impact it has on generations which never had an opportunity to share their trauma and their pain with their family. Bringing them back home was probably one of the most emotional things that could ever happen to anybody that had lost a family member. And thank all the spirits of all countries that a lot of these people have come back home and found their place. And this song, this next song I'm going to sing with the beautiful Danielle is Believe. And this song is about getting your belief back after you were gone for so long. I believe I am home. And I'm not alone. I believe I'm told. And I made it known. Come with me, my love, be my shadow in love. Fly to the sun with me, yeah. Let our wax melt in the wings. We'll fall as one, fall as one. Thank you. Murrumboo, everybody. Murrumboo, everybody. And if you get a chance, say hello to a non-Aboriginal person if you're Aboriginal. If you get a chance, say hello to an Aboriginal person if you're non-Aboriginal. And let's just do it together, eh? Yiga Wakulda, in it together. Thank you very much.
Welcome everybody to Biripi country. You're in my grandmother's country. This is my grandmother's country. I'd like to acknowledge the elders of the present and the past in our area, and thank you for being here with us tonight. This is a real special time for us. It's Sorry Day. It means a lot because it's so personal. It's personal in the sense that it happened to our family, so thank you.
So I'm here today talking a little bit about the history and also the meaning of Sorry Day and why we have Sorry Day. So Sorry Day, for me as an Aboriginal person, is acknowledging the grief of loss. It's not, in general, a sorry like an apology to the country or from you or from anyone else. It's acknowledging all of the children that were removed, the mothers that didn't get to raise their babies and the fathers, the grandmothers, the aunties, the uncles. It's all of that grief that's acknowledged in this day, and that we pay our respects to those people that have come home, and we acknowledge those that are still lost. For me, I think I'd like to share with you the history of how it all come about. And a lot of Australians weren't taught this at school. I know I wasn't. And one of the things that I think that we need to do as Australians is ask for the truth and share the truth. And so our children learn the history, the true history of this country. And that history is acknowledged, and we learn from it and we move on as one. So back in 1886, the government decided, a fair while back, in 1886, the government decided to form the Aboriginal Protection Board. And the Protection Board was formed back then with the ideal that they were going to take away our children, but they didn't know how they were going to do it. So for the next 20 years, the government formed and set policy and procedures on how they might remove the children of Aboriginal people. In 1911, that policy was endorsed by government, and they then commenced prior to that, but with that legislation in taking away our babies. There was no reasoning behind removing our children. At first it was all light skin coloured kids because they figured that they can indoctrinate them and teach them Western or European ways and give them what they thought was a better life. And then it was in 1936 that our people had had enough. But prior to that, there was an underground movement of Aboriginal people and activists. And they progressed through the country in securing membership for what we call the Aboriginal Progressive Association. In 1936, the first Aboriginal corporation, which was the Aboriginal Progressive Association, was formed. And we then formally started to fight for the rights of our children. We marched on the streets on May 26, 1936, for those rights and the rights of our own people, not just for the welfare of our children, but also for the rights as Aboriginal people. It wasn't until 1967 that a referendum was held, and within that referendum, Australia voted yes to give us the right to vote, the right to be heard. But what they also did was eliminate the Aboriginal Protection Board policies and legislations to remove our children. So in 1969, they were formally removed and abolished, but it took a further 10 years to then create what we know today as the Young Person, Child and Protection Act, which is implemented by children's services right across Australia. We still have children removed under the new legislation, and unfortunately intervention is not funded as great as out-of-home care. And one of the bad things about that, I've worked within the services, I've worked within children's services, and I did this because of my own experiences within our family and the impacts of having children removed by the government and the long-term impacts that that actually creates. So I worked within the children's services, and what I found was that sometimes decisions were made on opinions, decisions were made on perspectives, and people's own upbringings. And there's a really big difference between the way Aboriginal people engage family and what family means. For us, family is community. We're not united by mother, father and children. We're united by the aunties and uncles, the mothers, the fathers, the extended family, the grandparents, and we all care for our children together. So I think that the government, based on the history of Australia and the impacts of sorry business, the impacts of the removal of our children, that we need to start investing more funds within the intervention and helping families maintain structure or strength within the family unit. We need to make sure our children grow up knowing who they are and what country they come from, who their grandparents are and who their aunties and uncles are. Because when that's lost and you lose your identity, you lose a lot more. And it's really hard to regain and learn a lifetime full of culture. I think one of the powerful things is that within our community, we're united now within language, and we're starting to share culture with our children. We're starting to ensure that our children know their roots, and we're building really, really strong foundations to ensure that our children have connection to country, have connection to family, and all the rest of it. I think for me, within our family, we were affected, and my mother's going to tell that story later on tonight. One of the things that I remember, though, from that whole experience is when our auntie come home, and we found the other extended, or the other side of the family, and we met that other side of the family, and I remember standing there and looking at my auntie Marge and my auntie Shirley and my grandfather, and we're in a hall and I could see their profile, and their profiles looked exactly the same. And I thought to myself, there's no doubt that this woman is my grandfather's sister, and that the other thing that was uncanny was the aunties and the uncles and the cousins. There were identical twins within the two families. We had cousins that looked like each other from grandfather's side and his sister's side. And the whole experience was a blessing for our family. And Mum, like I said, Mum's going to share a little bit more on how that all come about and the impacts that that had on us, but particularly on Mum and her brothers and sisters and her father, and also her grandmother. But I think that to move forward, we really need to appreciate our past. We need to acknowledge our past. We need to share the history and, like I said, the true history of this country. And, we need to learn from that. And I suppose for me, as a CEO of the Land Council, I've coordinated a number of sorry days, and within those sorry days, it's the Aboriginal people that coordinate those sorry days. It would be really lovely to be invited to a sorry day coordinated by non-Aboriginal organisations where the respect is paid from them, not from us to our own people. So we can both share in that and share the stories that are associated with sorry business in association to the removal of our children. So tonight I think is a very special night, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this and to share my perspective and knowledge about the history. I'd like to invite my brother and his gorgeous partner back up, because they're going to sing some more songs for you and entertain you. They're on their way up here now, but enjoy the rest of the night, learn what you can, and come and share these days with us. Thank you very much. I didn't even introduce myself.
Jojo is a mover and shaker. She was always moving and shaking when Jody and I ganged up on Andrew. It was great. He deserved it. This next song, and I mean, it's a big thing. Sorry day, sorry business, and Reconciliation Week. But you know what? Reconciliation is a good thing for everybody because you can't hold a grudge forever or be angry about something forever because it's not good for your health, I think. And so bring the love back, bring acceptance into your heart, and don't fear the unknown. Go and find out what it's about, and then, you know, that fear won't be there, hopefully. But there's a lot of people out there that want exactly the same things, regardless of your race, gender, or background. So hopefully we can all get there one day. But this one is called Horizon Line, and it's about all of us seeing clearly. So here we go. Finally we seeing alright. We can see the horizon lines, and the sunshine over the hills will be itching the back of our eyes. And finally we can see alright. We can see the horizon lines, and the sunshine over the hills will be itching the back of our eyes. Time that we felt alright, with these feelings that we have deep inside, and all the bad feelings finally will subside. 'Cause we all are breaking through the lines, and we're hoping it's the last time. We all are breaking through the lines, and we're hoping it's the last time. Finally we can feel alright, 'cause the feelings we have deep inside are no longer bad feelings, keeping us up all night. Time that we felt alright about the decisions we make in time, and all the choices we are making will carry us alright. 'Cause we all are breaking through the lines, and we're hoping it's the last time. We all are breaking through the lines, and we're hoping it's the last time. Okay. I remember when I was growing up and I used to go running up the back of the bush, up the back of Nan's and grandfather's, and I said, "Oh, I want to cut down a tree, grandfather." And he said, "Oh," I go, "I only got one axe." And I said, "What?" I said, "True." And he goes, "It's only a little axe, tiny little axe." And he gave me this little axe, and it was like a little kiddie axe, about that big on the head and about that long. And he said, "You keep persisting at that tree, you'll cut that tree down." And he said, "It's like a big problem. Problems sometimes are like a big tree and you got this tiny little axe and the big tree's just standing right over you. But you know what you got to do? You just got to keep at it. And you chip that big problem down to nothing." And I love my grandfather and the words of wisdom that he spoke. And I was very lucky that he shared that with me. But this one's called Big Tree. Here we go. You got a big tree. You got a small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. You got a big tree, a small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. Why do you want to fight and bleed, my brother? One day you will become men. Don't you realize the land on which we stand? I would rather give you my helping hand. Got a big tree. You got a small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. You got a big tree. Small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. Big tree. You got a small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. You got a big tree. Small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. With maximum attack. Maximum attack. Maximum attack. Got a big tree. You got a small axe. Cut that stress down with maximum attack. You got a big tree. Small axe. Got a big tree. You got a small axe. You gotta cut that stress down with maximum attack. With maximum attack. With maximum attack. Maximum attack. Thank you. I tell you what, it's great to be back at Pluto again too, everybody. And thank you, Hamish and the crew. They're deadly, these fellas. And if you don't know what deadly means, all you got to do is put all the mad words into one bag, like sick, awesome, filthy. Though my grandmother's filthy reference was different. But you know all them deadly words, and you just put them in a bag, and that's deadly. So thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We start. Your turn, Mum.
Hey?
Your turn.
Oh, yeah. The story that I wanted to tell you is the story that my father told me. And I heard it And it's funny when you hear something when you're younger, you don't understand what it's all about, but as you get older, you start understanding things. And the story goes he was in a town called Kurua, down south from Taree, where my grandmother ended up living. And he was about 5 years old. His little sister was about 7. And they were at Kurua Mission. And the place was all fenced around, and they were under the management and under the Aboriginal Protection Board and the policy. And he had to run down, and him and his sister had to run down and get a bucket of water because they were getting water out of wells them days. And as he was at the well, this car drove into the mission, and it was a policewoman and a welfare officer, and a policeman and a welfare officer. And they grabbed my auntie, put her in the car, and they took her. And Dad had to go back home to Auntie Elizabeth. And he was staying with my grandmother's sister at the time, him and his sister. Because at that time, my grandmother was what they called service. She was on service. And she was out at Moree. And anyways, Auntie Marge was taken, and Dad said, I didn't want to go home. I was too frightened to go home to Auntie Lizzie. He said, a little boy, he said, I was crying my eyes out because I didn't know why they took her in this car. And anyways, he said, I went home to Auntie Lizzie and I was telling her. And then all the commotion happened, because the community knew what was going on with the children taken. And they were wondering how they were going to let my grandmother know, the mother know, about her child being taken away. She come home and found that the child was gone, so she ended up writing a letter to Cootamundra Girls' Home. That's where she was taken. And they sent the letter back to her, and she said in the letter, I seen the letter because later on in years my cousin had been able to get the letters from the welfare board. And the letter said in it, when are you going to bring my daughter home? You said you was only taking her on a holiday. Well, that holiday turned into 69 years. And that's how long it took my father and his sister to find their sister again. And when we found her, she had a family, and she had a family of 6 girls and 1 boy. And we had to go down to Bulladila to take my auntie down and my father down there to sit with them. And when they looked at each other, Dad and my auntie, and they looked at her, and she was lost because by this time she had dementia. She couldn't remember anything. And she remembered my father. She said, yes, I remember you. I remember you. And anyways, they both looked at each other and they said, she looks like Mum. Well, their mother ended up dying. And my grandmother used to cry. And as a child, as I was growing up, I was 5, and I used to always say to my father, why is my nana always crying, my daddy? And Dad didn't tell us when we were little, but as we got older, he told us the story. And my nana died of a broken heart. And anyways, the reunion, after the time that we found her, but it was a coincidence. My cousin was going to TAFE, and her and my auntie's daughter, the one that was taken, and they were doing a project where they had to bring a photo in. And she brought this photo of a mother, and they had to bring a photo of their mother, and they had to paint their mother. And my cousin looked at the photo and she said, "Is that your mother?" And she said, "Yeah, that's my mother." And she said, "Can I have a lend of that?" And anyways, she brought the photo up to my auntie, and my father was sitting at the dinner table this night, and they put the photo in front of him, and he looked at the photo and he said, "Yes, that's her. That's her." We finally found her. And they finally found her. And then they had time with her. And then we had a reunion then. And the reunion was to bring all the family together. And none of the Auntie Margie's family were brought up to think that they were Spanish. Not Aboriginal, but Spanish. Because she was frightened of her kids getting taken away because she was under that. She worked for the Catholic Church most of her life when she came out of Cootamundra Girls' Home. And she was afraid of it because her husband threatened her that if she had said that she was Aboriginal, all the kids would have been taken because they were fair-skinned. A whole lot of them was fair-skinned. And anyways, we ended up having time with them, and they couldn't believe. It was like a shock to them to know that they were Aboriginal people. And it took a long time for them to understand all about Aboriginal culture, Aboriginal ways. And in a way, I think it would have been really sad if she I can't say it. Anyways, the daughter ended up coming up to the mission because my grandmother was buried in the cemetery at Perfleet. And she came up to see my grandmother's grave. She wanted to see the grave, to see where it was. And my uncle, Johnny, had been in jail for 25 years. And when he came out, he didn't see his mother when he was young. And he came and he fixed that grave up, and I was thankful to him for fixing that grave up, because when that time came for that family to know their background and their roots and where they come from, it was grave. And we talk to them now and talk about things that are important to them. And the most important thing was the culture, and how much we loved them as a family, how much the whole community loved them as a family, because when it was taken from the community, it was a loss from the community. The community lost one person, and that person was important to the community because that person made up the community. And that was my auntie. She made up the community. And it was a very, very sad time for my grandmother, and a sad time for my father. But he never ever give up. He'd never give up searching for her. Anyways, I went to the Cootamundra Girls' Home. They had a after sorry business with the government, and the Prime Minister saying sorry. We had the bicentenary at Cootamundra, and all the girls that were ever taken from there and the families of those girls were there at that Cootamundra girls' home and that bicentenary. It was the 100th bicentenary of Cootamundra girls' home. And it was a sad day because there were still people there, broken-hearted and hurting because nothing was done for them. Compensation's nothing. We need more than that because we had to live with that all our lives, not being recognised as people of this land. Because my poor old auntie, as a child at 7, was taken to be a slave in someone's home. But that was my story that my father told me. And you know, we still have people that live with that sorry business and that heartache that's still inside of them because it really hurts. Anyway, they say that we've got to move on, but there's still more to do. There's still more to do for those families that have lost a lot of people. Because it wasn't just one person you were taken. It was the herd of all the communities over Australia. Thank you.
Thanks, Mum. Right.
Yeah.
I love my mother, and she is she's the foundation of our family. She stood up and she took that role when my nan died. And I think this whole experience and the stories we share shows you the impacts that it wasn't long ago when this happened. It's not the past, it's the present. And it's the future because we still have lost babies, lost children, lost families that still need to find their families. And we ask you to share with us that journey and help us get those children and those families the connections back to country, back to culture, back to their bloodlines and their storylines. This week of reconciliation is a powerful week because it gives us that opportunity to reconcile the past. It gives us the opportunity to be strong and to stand together and to stand tall in the history and the future that we have. I'd like to thank Pluto Entertainment for the opportunity tonight to come here and to share our stories and to acknowledge Sorry Day, our day of grieving. And I'd also like to acknowledge that these guys do this for nothing. And that they've run so many shows and shared and given opportunities for people to share in things like tonight. So if you'd like to donate, have a look at their site and please donate because what they're doing is powerful. It gives us a platform to share a history, to share a story, and to entertain, to strengthen our community. It gives us that platform to stand together and to move forward. So I'd like to thank you for tonight. Thanks.
Wow. There's the beauty about a story is the truth in it, and these are real stories that have existed around Australia for a long time since their creation. And I think the importance of Sorry Day is that acknowledgement, as I mentioned before, acknowledging that things do actually happen. So I would just like to pay my respect to all of the families in Australia that have had that loss in their lives, and acknowledge the strength of those families and the journey that they have had to come on to get to today. Their journey they had to climb to gain common privileges like most of us have by default. So I just want to reach out and give my heart to those people and my spirit and my soul, and bless you with country and the country that you belong to, and hope that you achieve that journey back home one day if you're not there yet. Marumbu Ngaya Pam Saunders, thank you Auntie Pam, also my mama bear, the reason why I had to be really good tonight. And Marumbu Jigan Jody Lola, my sister, and Marumbu Jiganjar Burajar Pluto Ian Tigal. And that's saying thank you, brothers and sisters from Pluto Entertainment Mob. So thank you very much. But I think this one is probably one that we need to just make happen, I think, this last song. You know it, but this is a different version. Starts with T and ends with Riti. On the radio, I heard it on the television. Back in 1988, all those talking politicians. Words are easy, words are cheap, much cheaper than a priceless land. Promises can disappear like writing in the sun. Treaty, yeah. Treaty now. Treaty, yeah. Treaty now. Treaty, yeah. Treaty now. Treaty, yeah. Treaty now. Namana jadamana japana machana wala na japa. Machina yakare guru macha. Islam was never given up. Islam was never bought no soul. Planning of the Union Jack never changed the law at all. Two rivers run their course, separated for so long. Dreaming of a brighter day when the waters will be one. Dream, yeah. Promises, destiny, priceless land, destiny. Thanks, Pluto. Treaty, yeah. Treaty now. Treaty, yeah. Treaty, yeah. Treaty, yeah. Treaty, yeah. Treaty, yeah. Treaty, yeah. Treaty, ma. Treaty, ma. Treaty, ma. Treaty, ma. Thank you, everybody. Gapu, Judy McGapul, I will see you again later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for the rest of the week. We've got stuff happening. Oh, well, Pluto's got stuff happening. Tomorrow night, Thursday night, every night. Every night of Reconciliation Week. So next Wednesday is the last date. So stay tuned, everybody. And you know what? In this big changing time we're in, be nice to each other and love each other. Thank you. Marambul.